All right, well, welcome everyone. Here we are at the NAMM Show 2026. We've got Sam from Musik Hacks. Everyone, give him a round of applause, please.
Thank you.
So, Sam, just tell me, how has your NAMM experience been so far?
Very exhausting for my vocal cords.
Yeah.
Really good. It's just awesome. One of the main reasons that we come here is just to meet the people that are using our product. So we get a lot of people that come by the booth and talk about how they're using stuff, and that's really exciting. And then new people come by and we're able to show them what we're up to. And then we get to meet people like you, which is always fun too, because it's great to be able to talk about what we're about.
Yeah. And I'm super grateful for you coming on today, and we just get to talk about the thing I think both of us love most, music production, music plugins. And so I'm really stoked to just get into your story and the story behind Musik Hacks. And let's just get right into it.
Yeah, sure.
So tell me a little bit about Musik Hack and the company background. People hearing about Musik Hack for the first time, how would you explain to them what it is?
So Musik Hack's a company, we make audio software, plugins right now, but we're going to be doing a couple new things in the future.
Okay.
And we're a company that is focused on bringing great sound to everybody, and letting people know that they can be confident in their taste and they don't need to be a technician in order to get great sound. And so what we want to do is take some of the technicality out of music making, and so that it without taking the expression out of it. And that's what's really important. It's why we make these tools that are neither one knob tools nor are they airplane cockpits. And people are like, well, that's just 5 one-knobbers. And it's like, we're thinking about holistics a little more than that. But the point is that you know what you want to do, and we want to help you get there without you having to take a side route for 3 weeks learning about compression ratios.
Right. I mean, that totally makes sense, too, because I know for me, when I first opened up the DAW for the first time, it's super overwhelming, and these plugins with all these leveling things and buttons and knobs.
Yeah.
It's just super overwhelming at the beginning. So finding a way to really simplify that really does seem like an amazing solution.
Yeah.
So take us back to the beginning. What's the story behind Musik Hack, and what did the early days look like for you?
So basically, for me personally, it started because of COVID. I was like, I am done with my desk job. I was a programmer, even though I went to school for music. And I just basically said, I'm going to just start learning plugin development. I'm going to learn how to do DSP and all this stuff. I already know the concepts behind a lot of it. I've just not done the programming. So I did that for a long time, and I was going to producing camps because I just knew some people who were doing that kind of thing. That was really exciting and cool. But I was learning that I'm not really that great of a producer, but I can make tools and I know things about music that can help producers a lot. So I started working on some plugins with a producer that was at one of these camps. And then that person kind of had some troubles and disappeared for a bit.
Okay.
And then at some point, a friend of mine that was a mutual friend of Stan, he's the other co-founder, I was saying what I was doing, and he was like, oh, I know, you should talk to my buddy Stan. And so Stan called me, and we're both kind of unsure of we've never met each other. This is just an over the phone sort of situation.
Yeah.
And so I give this guy the plugin that I worked on for this other producer, and Stan's a mixing engineer, not a producer. And so he goes and he tries to install it, and it's not working on his machine. And he's like, he's a little bit paranoid, and like everybody in music, everyone's a little bit worried about getting snaked or something bad happening or whatever. So it's just I think this dude's trying to hack my machine or whatever. So I tell our mutual friend Shannon, I'm like, dude, just let me just talk to him directly. So I talk him down, and I'm like, look, tell me what's going on, whatever. So I fix the issue, and then give him a new build, and checks it out, and it works great, and it has a great sound. And then we met for, I think, coffee somewhere downtown in LA after that, and that's when Musik Hack was born as an idea. We didn't have a name or anything yet, but we're like, we'll work together. We're going to work on this idea of a mastering chain. You got these things, I got those things. Let's go.
Yeah. And maybe that's a good time to bring up one of your plugins, Master Plan?
Yeah, that was the first one.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Stan's journey was from, I guess, Jersey. He also had a desk job where he was like, nah. At some certain point, he was so bored, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. You'd have to ask him. But he went over, and then he was a intern at Larrabee Studios. He studied under Manny American for a really long time. I don't know if it's studied, but he interned under him, worked under him, learned how, he cut his chops doing that kind of stuff. And so he had to learn ways that people at these high level mixing, mastering houses were working with audio. And not just that, but as things were moving into the box from analog mixing, and he was being asked to do certain types of things where he didn't always have access to the same gear that Manny may have in that moment, right? Because, there's only so many people working at a time. I don't remember exactly what the deal is. He ends up in a situation where he's like, I have to figure out how to make this stuff sound like it went through all this crazy expensive gear, but I have to do my work in the box. Because it's a big myth that your equipment is what's holding you back. Right? It's like, I love to cook, right? And I'm going to tell you right now, like, unless your pan is like a copper penny, right? It's not until you're pretty darn good. It's not like what brand of utensils you're using that's holding you back in terms of like making some good food. The same is true with mixing, producing, anything. Like, the tools can help you and they can do certain things, but I think that it's not that you don't have an analog summing must that you can't make good music. Yeah. So he's on a mission to find this stuff out. And he does. He's like, I've got the set of things that I need to do in order to make this sound have the characteristics of sound that's gone through Larrabee. This is like one of the top places in the world. And that's part of what he's got going on. So when we talk about master plan, he's like, look, I have a mastering chain, and I know that this is what mastering engineers do. It's not just my work, but like other people I've talked to, everything, they go through these sets of processes, and everyone's got their own thing, right? Just we all have our own way of doing our work. But these are the main core stages that we go through, and these are the moves that we make. And so we just meticulously went down that list one by one, and in the way that he would talk about things would be like, sometimes he would talk about the sound, but sometimes he'd also talk about like, I'm using this particular tool to do this part of the work, right? Yeah. And the goal was never like, we need to exactly emulate this other thing. The goal was always, these are the characteristics I'm looking for. How do we get them? Right? And I think that's really important because a lot of people approach plugin development, let me know if I'm straying too much, but a lot of people approach plugin development as like, especially engineers, let's say Stan's not in the picture, especially computer engineers. Yeah. They're like, I've heard that the 1176 sounds good. You know where I'm going with this. And so if I just perfectly copy an 1176, that means that the sound that my plugin makes is good. And that's a lot easier than saying, why does an 1176 sound good? Right. What am I doing to the sound that makes it sound good? And then you're hamstrung because you're not learning what it is that makes audio sound good. You're learning what maybe does an 1176 do, or that particular 1176 do. So the combination of all the stuff, these particular things don't matter so much. What really matters is what am I doing to the sound and why, right? So we developed a really good way of talking about amongst each other how we get from sound that's kind of dull and lifeless to this sound that we really love and that has its own personality. Yeah. And what it means to really bring something out in sound in mastering. And I don't know, like the basic circuits kind of came together and then we just obsessed over them for a year. Like the basic idea was done in a couple months because the building blocks of audio DSP, there's good references on them. But then, just fine tuning and tweaking and tweaking and tweaking until you've got this tool that's just gonna do the job all the time. That's the hard part, right? Yeah. You got to put in the effort and the time and put all the material through it to know that it's gonna do its job. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Wow. So to kind of go off of that, I mean, it sounds like the backstory started because your co-founder and you did see a real problem that was occurring in the music industry. And so you thought, how can we build a tool that kind of fixes or creates a similar chain to what people were using on professional tracks?
Actually, yes.
Actually.
Yeah, because can I interrupt you one more time?
Yeah,
My favorite example to give, and this, look, I love I'm a Logic user. Like I love Apple products. But my favorite example to give about how it seems like people that make music tools know absolutely nothing about mastering whatsoever is that if you on Logic click the button to like open up mastering, right? Because they have the auto mastering thing.
Right.
The very first thing it does is analyze your track and then show you a massively complicated EQ curve. That EQ curve takes up half the screen, and you may as well be looking at a stock chart. There's not a single mastering engineer that works at a high level in the whole world that would ever do that to any track that comes across their desk. They're making small moves. They're not notching things. They're like half a dB to a dB here, half a dB to a dB there, very gentle shelves. But all of these tools, they're not even doing anything like what a mastering engineer would do. So it's no wonder they don't sound like it. And I don't know what these companies are doing. Maybe I should just tell them like, just keep doing it because it's making us work. But like that's the problem. Yeah. That's the problem. They're doing too much. They're doing the wrong things. You can tell by the way they even present the work that they've done to you that they don't know what they're doing. And so we're like, well, we could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe for producers just starting out that are trying to learn how to master, what would you say the biggest struggles are when learning how to master? Or
First of all, there's a big mix between mixing and mastering. Like we're literally doing a panel tomorrow about this. But you will find some big mixing engineers, I mean, Dave Pensato included, that say like, don't master my mixes. When I've finished a mix, it's done. Because when you think about it, like, okay, well, if back in the day, you might have vinyl records and like other stuff, you know, whatever. There might be very particular things you need to do to the audio to make it fit on the final format. This is not as much of an issue anymore. It's still an issue if you're going to make a vinyl record. You do have to care about certain specific unique things. That's cool. But most of the time, streaming platforms, YouTube, you know, whatever, and then, you know, the CD maybe. So the real question is, well, what is the difference between mixing and mastering? Where does one end and the other begin, right? If I have a mix engineer, and that mix engineer has done an awesome job, and they have a great mix, it sounds awesome, they've listened to it everywhere, it sounds incredible, it's got the loudness you need, it's got the punch you need, whatever, why is it not done, right? So then you have to ask yourself, okay, well, the artist and the mixing engineer are different people. And then, of course, there's the A&R. So there's all these different people, and they're asking each other, like, well, is it done? And they're used to sending it off to mastering engineers because it used to be necessary, right? And mastering engineers will argue that it's still necessary. And it may be. At the very least, you have another set of ears that's taking a listen to the material for a kind of final lean, final push, right? But the mixing engineer might feel slighted by this, depending on who they are. Right. Some mixing engineers, while I said some are like, I would never, like it doesn't need any changes. Other mixing engineers always want to work with the same mastering engineer. But the point is, the mixing engineer seems to have an opinion about what happens after that because it's their work. Essentially, by saying another person has to change the audio, you're saying the mixing engineer didn't make it good enough. And if the mixing engineer didn't make it good enough, and the mastering engineer needs to do pass, then who's to say that you don't need a mastering engineer? Right. Why don't we need a third set? You could go on forever, right? There's nothing very specific about that process necessarily that person is doing, and there's been this kind of push-pull that's gotten, the distinction's gotten less over time. Yeah. And in telling you this, I've completely forgotten the question you asked. The challenge of learning what to do when mastering. The biggest challenge in learning what to do in mastering is, are you happy with your mix? If you're not happy with your mix, don't even talk about mastering.
Yeah. And so, before we get to the mastering process, we need a great mix, right?
That's right.
And you also have another tool that can help maybe make your mixes more punchy or really cut through, just make their sounds really more saturated or give it some fuel.
Yeah. So we have a couple products that help with mixing, not just mastering, but also mixing. Fuel, and we just announced Sweetie Q at NAMM. So one for dynamics and the other for saturation. And I mean, I personally find mixing to be an immense challenge. It's really hard. I mean, you're given something that is given to you by a producer that sounds good, and you get an idea of what they want, and you take that, and you're just trying to be like, all right, I get idea, I get what they want, I'm trying to make it like 25% better. Or if they really suck, 50% better, whatever. But they've given you the artistic direction, and you're trying to finish it, right? And I've heard different mixers say different things, but like we want to help mixers get the results faster, right? So the problems tend to be the same. This sound is conflicting with that sound. I want to add more volume to the sound, but I need to control the transients in it because then I'll get peaks. When I control the peaks, what else is it doing to the sound? You know, when I remove this, how do I do? And there's this set of things that I know a lot less than Stan does. So if I try to get too deep or detailed about them, I'd start spewing some bull crap. I know a lot about very specific. You know, I'm looking at the blade of grass rather than the lawn often. That's what my day is.
Gotcha.
So we make tools that are trying to help people solve those general problems at a higher level than worrying about, you know, my goal isn't, I want to compress this with a 3-to-1 ratio with a release of so many milliseconds, da-da-da-da-da. Your goal is, I want to increase the sound of this snare drum without it causing an over. How do I control it without taking away its snap? That's what you're actually trying to do.
Right.
So why don't I make a tool that does that rather than ask you all these questions that aren't directly related to what you want to do? They just happen to be related because of how analog circuits used to work 30, 40, 50 years ago. I want to break that paradigm. That's part of what I want to do.
Gotcha. And is that what your tool Fuel is doing, or the new one that you just announced?
Technically all of them.
All of them, okay.
We're always trying to do this. We're always asking the question, when I'm moving a knob or changing a fader or doing whatever, am I moving that to solve a particular thing that I would do in a mix workflow? Or am I doing that because that's a technical thing that I learned is supposed to be part of the path to solving that thing? Because if it's the latter, well then the tool could be better.
Right.
Right. Now, I know that there are people that love getting in there with the details and the intricacies, and they just know, like, if they're using a tool like ours, they're always gonna feel like, I could get 3% better if I could just control X, Y, and Z. And like, you know what? That's fine.
Yeah.
I feel like that's why these really detailed tools have to exist and do exist, because sometimes you do need that 3%, but most of the time the 3% is like less than 1%. And those are the types of products we're trying to make. The ones where we know we can solve those problems and we know we can make people just feel really in the flow and ergonomic with the mix. Thinking about what they're actually trying to do and not what's the trick that gets me one step closer to what I think I want to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it does seem that a lot of producers kind of know what they want to do, but maybe don't have the technical knowledge to do that. Or,
right.
Like I mentioned at the beginning, the technical overwhelm when you first open a button or a DAW and there's just a million buttons. It's, where do we even start?
Right.
So let's pivot into maybe the features of your plugins a little bit more. What specifically, what are some features inside of the Musik Hack plugins that you're really proud of and you're just super stoked for some producers to get their hands on?
The number one thing I think is the limiter that I built with Stan. He just told me the things that he liked about limiters, so that got me on the right path. And then for me, it was just about lots of comparing what limiters did, looking at the math, reading academic papers. But at the end of the day, the goal is to push loudness into a sound without affecting it as much as possible. And as DSP engineers, that's what we do. We're like, okay, well, you know, we want to do this thing, and what compromises can we make? Because ultimately, like, we have to do something if we're making it louder and it would go over. We have to do something to the shape of that waveform.
Yeah.
Is where can we hide the compromises so that they're not audible to people, right? If in the case of a limiter, that is, right? Because the limiter is always trying to prevent an over. So it has to change the shape of the waveform. How can we do that in a way that hides the sound the most? I'm so real proud of that. That will be immediately useful.
Nice.
So that took a lot of research, and I'm real proud of it. It's great.
Is that limiter in all of your plugins, or specifically?
Just in Master Plan and Fuel.
Okay.
And it's the big loud knob in the middle. We just call it loud.
Gotcha.
Right? Because it's a combination of a bunch of different stuff. I don't want to call it a compressor. I don't want to call it a limiter. I don't want to call it a clipper. It's a loudness control.
Yeah. Is it clipping? Like, is it?
There is clipping involved in the process.
Okay.
And one way I try to describe it without giving away the deep, dark secret is essentially it's trying to find places to hide clips in the audio so that you can't hear them, right? Because that's generally the trick when using a clipper. Clippers have become more and more popular because we've realized that we can use them without people perceptually hearing them. Yeah. So the question I was asking is, well, when can't we hear them? Right. When can I put a clip over here, and will that prevent me from needing to put a clip over there? You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's the way it's being solved. Yeah, and then Sweetie Q, I think what I'm most proud of is They all sound so good in that. You know what I mean? Maybe the high control, because normally when people reach to the favorite tool to add some more crispness to a sound, that'd be like Moog, Pultec, Fresh Air. I don't know. What's your favorite one?
For
Crispy, high sound.
I would say Fresh Air.
Fresh Air. Yeah. Cool.
EQ boost at like 5K.
You do that, and then it's like, oh man, now the S's are driving me nuts. Or like maybe there's just some sound that's just resonating real high up there and driving you nuts.
Yeah.
So you always have to put something after it.
Right, like a de-esser or
like a de-esser or whatever. Everyone's got a different trick.
Yeah.
But all those tricks, you have to use a slightly different trick for different types of material. A voice, you would definitely use a de-esser, but like a de-esser is going to screw up cymbals.
Right.
So so that high control I'm really proud of, because on almost all material, at least I haven't found a lot of bad stuff, you can really push the calming down control on it after raising it, or it's at a perfect spot for like kind of default, I think, where it's like, oh, this is decent on most things. You just turn it up and it sounds smooth as hell. So I'm like real proud of that.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Definitely gonna have to look into that.
Yeah.
Let's just get right into like the vision of Musik Hack and maybe the next few years, and maybe even new plugin ideas or problems you see, or let's even get into the AI debate.
Yeah.
Let's start with just the next few years of music. Where do we see Musik Hack?
So we are going to release more plugins for sure. We've got some really great stuff we did a lot of research on last year. Can't talk about those yet because they haven't reached their final forms, and we tend to kind of morph things around. But also we are going to start online processing of audio. And we're going to start with the platform, we're calling it HiFi, at least for now. You know what? No, it's called HiFi, unless someone sues me. I have no idea how that stuff works because we're a small business. Yeah. So like there's that. We're going to start with mastering because that's what we know most. And as far as AI is concerned, we do use some AI in order to like learn some things about the sound. But we don't have any AI that's transforming the sound directly. It's really informing the classic DSP processes, because we found that, at least right now, AI that directly manipulates sound still adds artifacts that we just don't like, that we think wouldn't pass muster if it were in a plugin. And if it wouldn't pass muster in a plugin, then I don't want to put it on the web.
Right.
So we're going to start with that, and then we're going to think of other things we can build from, starting out from that service to help people do stuff with audio online, so that people that don't like want to spend all their time in a DAW, maybe you're a singer-songwriter and you just do vocal notes or whatever, like that should be fine. We should still be able to help you get a little bit closer to what you want. If you don't happen to have a friend that's an engineer and you don't want to spend a long time on YouTube or spend money on a studio, I think there's a lot of people that could benefit from that. And so we're looking into the various parts of music production or songwriting that could benefit.
Gotcha. Yeah, and that kind of leads me into my next question in terms of, what you want to accomplish or achieve with Musik Hack.
Yeah.
What does success for your company or organization actually look for you personally? Impacting producers, or getting as many copies out there, or what is?
I mean, really, it's getting as many copies out there as possible. But the thing is that like you always raise the bar on yourself. And we talked with someone about this. We have a podcast of our own, and we talked with someone about this, and they were a producer, and we asked them this question. And so I'm thinking about what it means for me, and you know what? I think he was right. He has the same answer, which is that it's hard not to be hard on yourself. It's like you get to a certain spot, and you just think, oh, well, now I want this. I think that's not even. Everybody deals with that in almost every aspect of their life, and every once in a while you have to stop matches. Like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
So I think right now what I want is a track that uses our plugin, especially mastered by our plugin, to win a Grammy. I would just be like, all right, cool, that's amazing. Yeah. I mean, we've already got tracks that have used it, I think, in there, but I want like a full-on someone to say it was mastered by Master Plan and won a Grammy. I would be totally stoked. We already have musicians and producers and stuff that are telling us that they used it on these tracks, but like that would be killer.
Nice.
Yeah,
that would be a great accomplishment.
Yeah.
And just to close things off, if listeners or anyone watching this right now want a deeper dive into Musik Hack, where should they go to find that information?
Man, Probably our website, musichack.com. We started a YouTube channel with a podcast, but that's more about just our general blanket of people we know. Yeah. So that'll get into other things. Okay. So our Instagram and our website. I think are the ways to go.
All right. Well,
Oh, which is Musik Hack _ MUSIKHACK_ is the Instagram account. Yeah, there you go.
cool. Well, thank you, Sam, for doing this. It's
Yeah.
been a pleasure to speak to you, and I'm really excited to see where Musik Hack goes, and
Yeah.
hopefully at future NAMMs. And yeah, thank you again for joining today.
Cool. Yeah, it was nice to meet you, Cylus. It was great.
Yeah.
Cool.